Okay, so hello guys. So it's a new week. So we have new lines and we have new people to talk to this week on the Lipstick Effect. I am so excited because this week we have a lot of cool new things happening and our guest today is really, really special. But you know what? Let's not waste any time. As I always say, let's start the show. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Lipstick Effect. I'm your host, Jamila Bannister, brand and marketing strategist for beauty brands. And I am very excited about this week's show. This week I have my first male guest. Oh, I'm so excited, but that's the pièce de résistance. So I wouldn't bring him out just yet. He's back there in the green room enjoying the champagne. I think we have some new craft service in the back there, new kinds of like bits and bobs and stuff to eat. So everybody's having a good time in the back there. I'm just waving to my guest on backstage. She's having a great time there. And I'm excited. Today's Carnival Tuesday. Usually today is a day for makeup where people are go extra. They wear these extra long lashes and they do all this extra stuff with their hair. But alas, I am home. The most I can wear is this very dark vampy lipstick to represent my carnival time, right? So we couldn't be out today. But hopefully next year we'll be back for sure on the road having a good time. And so that's one Tuesday I wouldn't be here. That's the only Tuesday I probably would not be here. Right? In any event, welcome to tonight's episode. And I always start by giving you a few bits of news from around the world. So let's not waste any more time. Let's jump straight into that segment. Okay, this thing is not playing. Okay, I don't know what's going on here. All right, well, I guess we are back on. My video refused to play. All right, okay, so that's okay. But we'll jump straight in. So the first thing I want to talk about today is I saw that Gwen Stefani launched her own line of makeup. It's called Give, and she spells it GXVE. And I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. I don't know if that's a play on her name or what. I think it's pronounced Give. And I realize a lot of launching their lines now. So my friend sent me a couple today. Scarlett Johansson has her own line of skincare. Winnie Harlow has a own line of skincare, but like it's focused on almost like sun protection. I see Gwen has hers, and of course, Rihanna and Selena and a whole bunch of other people have their own lines. But sometimes I ask myself, where's the passion in this? Is it passion or is it celebrity driving these lines? You never quite know. Because a lot of beauty professionals have been in the trenches working, testing, trying, recommending, doing all sorts of things for beauty brands in order for us to get to a place where we are confident that this is something that definitely will work. So how do you feel about Gwen jumping into the space as a beauty professional? Do you feel like she's stepping on toes, or do you think, hey, there's room for everybody? Welcome, Gwen. Or welcome to the world of beauty. I don't know. I just want to see. I'm not quite sure what makes this particular line different or special, because you guys know I always look for the thing that makes a line of makeup or a line of skincare or hair care products special or useful, or that it solves a particular problem or is targeted. The only line of makeup that I've seen that kind of solves every problem is Rihanna's Fenty, clearly, because of the range of colors. And she really tackled a problem that was there. Very smart, and I guess that's why her makeup line is so big. And I guess it's Rihanna as well. You know? Anyway, so Gwen launched her line. Check it out. It's called Give by Gwen, GXVE. Um, Also, in this week's in regulatory news this week, I saw a story coming out of Australia that they are cracking down on cosmetics advertising with influencers. So a lot of influencers, as you know, influencers are very important to the world of beauty marketing, right? Getting the right person to use your product or be seen using your product or to talk about your product could do so much. Like one endorsement from the right person can have your brand sold out and on people's lips for a long time, right? But what happens when you have a product that they are no longer allowed to endorse? And this is the case that's happening in Australia right now. And I have it on very good authority that is actually products kind of like, things that you could ingest and things that you could put into your body. So I'm assuming things like vitamins for your hair, for your skin, maybe things like that that would probably affect you if you ingest it. And to take those kinds of things, you normally need, I guess in the US they have FDA approval. Here we have chemistry, food and drug. So there are different organizations around the world that see about it. And in Australia I think it's called the Therapeutic Goods Administration, the TGA. I believe that's what they call it, right? So imagine if you have like some sort of pill, some sort of vitamin. I know lots of people talk about slim tea. They always talking about that slim tea, and they always talking about those hair and those vitamins to grow your hair and to help your nails. Well, influencers, y'all can't talk about that anymore. So I guess these people are going to have to find a different way to advertise that. And you know how these things are. Once they start in one place, it starts to catch like wildfire, and every other place starts adopting a policy of cracking down on these things and becoming more serious. So, I mean, think about if you couldn't use influencers anymore for your product, what type of marketing would you use? How would you get creative? That's something to think about if you have products that people ingest. Because I'm seeing a lot of pills on my timeline as of late for things to do with hair and skin. So that's something to keep in mind. And third, I want to actually shout out a brand that I came across this week. These ads are popping up in my inbox all the time. An ad that came across for a cosmetics line called Le Champ Cosmetics. It is a brand out of Jamaica. I like to see Caribbean brands doing their thing and getting further and further. So I want to give a quick shout out to Le Champ. I don't know this girl and she doesn't know me, but I'm just shouting her out because she's a fellow Caribbean woman doing her thing. Let me see if I can share the page with you guys so you guys can see. But it's LECHAMP, Le Champ, and they were actually recently featured in InStyle magazine. She's out there doing her thing. So let's give a shout out. Okay, it's kind of fuzzy, but she has these really cute products. And she has a full line of makeup, so from foundations to powders to lipsticks to setting spray. She has it all. So you definitely want to check her out. Check out Le Champ if you are in Jamaica or close by, because she has some cool makeup. All right. Okay. Excuse me. All right. So that was news from around the world. Guys, allow me to take a quick sip of water. You know what happens when you talk a lot? All right. So let me get to it and bring out our guest for this evening. I'm really excited to welcome him here. I'm coughing. Okay. I'm really excited to welcome him. Excuse me, guys. It's a frog in my throat. Um, so I'm going to welcome him now. And so his name is Amadou. So Amadou, I know you're back there and you're hearing me. So, just take your last sips of champagne and close up your caviar. We are ready to have you on stage. So, Amadou, welcome to the warm yet rainy Trinidad and Tobago, all the way from down under. How are you?
Good. Lovely to meet you too, Jamila. Thank you so much for having me on the program today.
Oh yeah, I'm so glad to have you on. I'm really excited. You are like my first male guest, so you like broke the mold in some ways, and you are like the person I've interviewed the furthest from me, which is also really good. So
Oh,
You're holding two records right now, which is really, really good. So,
Thank you.
um, thank you for coming on to the show. And I'm really excited for our discussion this evening. So, if you're here watching, because I'm seeing a couple of people watching, definitely drop some lipstick emojis in the chat. You know how we do it. Come with your questions. We are ready to answer them. I'm sure Amadou will have some answers for you as well. And we are ready to just kick it off. So, Amadou, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yes, yes,
Okay,
Amadou.
good. Amadou, so introduce yourself, tell us who you are.
All right. Well, my name is Amadou. I was
Mhm.
born in Mali in West Africa, but then I grew up most of my life in America, actually in New York City. Where my
Mhm.
parents still live, and and the rest of my family are all are. But at 24, I left the US, and it was supposed to be a very short trip of probably 3 years to get some work experience under my belt in Asia, just at the time when the GFC was sitting around 2008. And actually, the 3 years transformed into what's now actually almost 12 years. And it was 7 years spent in Greater China and Hong Kong, where I was working mainly in PR and marketing roles, where I really honed my skill sets in that field. And then moved to Australia back in 2017 to Sydney, and I've been living and working here ever since, doing the day job still in communications and marketing, while also taking on the wild and crazy ambition as of 2020 to start my own line of beauty products in the hair care space.
Oh wow, that's such a great story. Well, we have. I see Janelle is on. Janelle is dropping some lipstick emojis to say
Hi,
hello.
Janelle.
Hello, Janelle. Thanks for coming on. Share the stream with somebody who you think will find it useful. We are going to be talking business, branding, and beauty tonight, as we do every
Yeah.
week. So, hi, Janelle, and thanks again. Wow. You know, Amadou, when I read your bio, I was like, wow, this guy has traveled a lot. How many countries have you resided in? About three or four?
Gosh, in total, when we took Mali, we taken the US, we've taken China. Maybe you can say because I was in college, for a year. I lived in Japan, so that's four, and then the Australia. So probably a grand total of five in my life so
Wow.
far.
I know some people have never left, even have even left Trinidad. They've never even gone to Tobago, and we are one
Yeah,
country.
no way.
Yeah, seriously. That's really, really cool. That's really, really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's because of my family. I've just been a very international minded person. My parents have both always been encouraged travel and learning about new cultures and learning about the world. So that's just something I inherited from them.
oh yeah, that's fantastic. And you said a short
Yeah.
trip of 3 years. I'm like, what? That's not short. That is not short. Okay, all right. So we are definitely here to talk about your brand, Wuli Grooming, which I was
Yeah.
so impressed by. And I love the way, you know what? Sometimes I have my love hate moments with Facebook, but I'm glad that I was able to connect with you in a Facebook
I
group. This
know.
is what it
Same.
does, you know?
How
You know,
incredible.
I know. So let's talk a little bit about your brand, Wuli Grooming, right? So,
Yeah.
when I was looking at some of the details of your story and just doing some research, a few things stood out to me. So, one of the things I always say is, the magic is really in the mundane. Those things that you do over and over again. And, in your story about Woolly Grooming, I got the impression that it was almost like a manifestation of you realizing that you matter, as you say, right? And it kind of pretty much came to you from spending just a few extra minutes with your morning routine. So tell us
Yeah.
about how that all developed for you.
Came about. So I love this part of the story. So it was back in 2020, and what's it called? I was got fun starting to go to a new barber to get my hair cut, and I've been talking to him about how I've been trying all these different types of styling products for my life, and most of them never worked. A lot of them had waxes, and they would just do a lot of damage in my hair. And he was actually one of the first black barbers I managed to find in Australia after searching for so long. And he
Yeah.
said to me, "You need to look at this product," and it was called Brilliantine. It's a product that's been around the market for decades and decades, and it's something that's very like it's a cream, but it's very oily based. And I was using it, and I was thinking, "Oh, this is great! I actually softens my hair and lets me style it how I want." But then, as I got to using it more and more, two things happened. On the benefit side, I started to realize that I did start to be more conscientious of taking more time to look after my hair. And actually that affected how I approach a lot of other things in life. It was about habits. Because I was taking that extra few minutes every day to look after my hair, I started being more mindful of how I made sure I kept my home, how I was eating, how I was approaching other people, how I was even taking on tasks and organizing myself throughout my day. It was just this one little small thing that became a habit that built onto other things. And that was the most wonderful feeling I've had in a very long time. And I couldn't believe it was because I just felt so much more empowered and so much more confident with myself because I was taking that moment to look after myself every morning. And then on the other side, when I was looking at this product, I was thinking, this is fantastic, but I feel like it can be done better. Because I was
Mm.
looking at the ingredients, and a lot of the ingredients in there were synthetic or artificial. There was very heavy amounts of mineral oils in there, so I could tell, like, if I woke up in the morning and I still had the product in my hair, my pillow would be greasy, or I could actually feel the grease in my hands.
Yeah.
And so, this product had this big selling point of saying that it had vitamin B that was very helpful for your hair. And I thought, surely there has to be a way of doing this better. Yes, vitamin
Mm.
B is important, but there's actually a lot of other active ingredients that are equally important to quality hair management. Then I started thinking, well, why isn't there enough products, particularly at that moment for men, when it comes to
Mm.
curly hair? There was a lot of
Mm.
products in the marketplace for women, but men didn't have too many variations. And especially in a market like Australia, which is predominantly Caucasian, most of the styling products you find are for fine hair. They're waxes, they're strong hard gels, they're mousses. And anybody who has curly hair will know that doesn't work in your hair type because it just breaks, it builds up, it will make you itchy, your dandruff will be building up. It's just the worst thing you can possibly have for that type of hair. And so
Yeah.
that's when I started thinking, I wonder if there's a way of doing this better. And I wonder if there was an all natural alternative to this. And I spoke to a friend of mine in the US at the time who was a beauty expert who's been making formulas in her spare time for ages. And I said, do you know anything about this type of product, Brilliant Team? And she said, oh, yeah, I do a version of it as my own home brew every so often for my own hair. I make a batch of it at home and I make this kind of recipe. So then
Mm.
we talked about this. And then I said, well, great. And then I started playing around with it myself and making a few little samples myself and realized I could do something similar at home. But then
Yeah.
I thought I still want to have a lot of that nutrition. I really wanted it to be leveraging the power of plants that had things like jojoba oil, marula, argan, that really, from my research and knowledge, do wonderful things to hair. And
Yeah.
that's when I started to start having conversations. I actually first started my research on Instagram. I reached out to, I think it was maybe like 50 to 70 barbers and hairdressers and salons, mostly in Australia, but from all around the world, in the Caribbean, as well as in the UK and even the US, and just asked them, what do you think about how do you say, the limitations of products for stuff for curly hair styling, particularly for men? Do you think there's an opportunity if somebody created a formula in this way? And a lot of them came back to me and said, yes, absolutely. There's nothing like this I've seen in the market. Most curly hair guys who come in don't know what's available. If you can make something, we'd love to learn more about it. And that was the encouragement I needed to really start the foundations of building Wuli. And then I just started having all of these conversations with all these different people that have, how do you say, come to my life and really helped to develop this business and this brand. I found a chemist in Australia whose entire business ethos is on all natural beauty products. She does everything 100% all natural and organic. And I
Yeah.
challenged her and said, I want to create something that isn't available in the market. I don't want a white label product. I want something that you can really we can really create and call our own that hasn't been seen in the market before. And I knew that one of the biggest USPs that I wanted to highlight is all active natural ingredients, and really wanted
Yeah.
to pack as much active ingredients as possible because I knew when they were working together, they could really do great benefits for the hair. And she said, yep, I'll take on the challenge, which I found so rewarding because so many chemists out there, they usually just say to you, here's my formula, add your fragrance, and then that's it. She took the time and said, nope, I'm going to work with you and we're going to create something completely original because she was excited about it as much as I was.
Yeah.
And then I started researching what kind of fragrances were really popular in the marketplace, what scents people like, looked at a lot of competitive brands, and then we created these two beautiful fragrances of neroli and sweet orange, as well as bergamot and vanilla, to add into the formula. It all took about 9 months to create the first formula, the curl cream, because I think we went through about 3 or 4 iterations, which some people will say that's incredible, that's a very small amount, and some people were like, oh my God, I can't believe it took this long. I'm really grateful it took that long because it meant that we had enough time to finesse it. She was a perfectionist. She wasn't just going to take my money and run. She really wanted to make sure that we did something that was going to be beneficial and incredible.
Yeah.
And then while she was developing the formula with me, I was developing the other side of the business, so the branding and the business side. And I feel very blessed because 2 people came into my life to really help me get the business side and the brand side to this stage. One is a beautiful woman by the name of Thomasina, who I sing her praises left, right, and center. She is my mentor. We connected here in Sydney. She's an African-American woman actually from New York, who we had a mutual friend from New York who connected us. And we met up one day, and she had had a wealth of industry experience. She's run beauty salons, she's run hair care brands. And I just gave her my idea, and she said, this can work. This is how you can do it. And she really gave me that extra boost of confidence to build the business. And then on the
Yeah.
other side, I had my branding. So I knew as soon as I wanted to create this business and this business product, I wanted to have a very strong branding. Now, I'm not the best person when it comes to brand naming. When I first came up with the idea, I wanted to call the business like Quaffed. Don't know why,
Yeah.
with a K. I said I was going to call myself Quaffed, like a coiffed hairdo with a K, like one of those Kardashian girls. I
Yes.
thought that was the best thing to do, but it wasn't. And I realized eventually that was the terrible business name. But how I got there was because I did some research actually on TikTok. I found this young guy who was a graphic designer and industrial design professional by trade, who was like 27 years old. And I saw that he was posting some videos about some branding that he did for a hair salon in New York. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. It was like this, Caucasian guy from Australia, actually in Perth, which is a city on the other side of the country. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I reached out to him on TikTok and I said, love your work. I would love to reach out to you because I'm working on a business idea. What do you think? And he was like, yeah, I love it. Let's make it happen. So then we connected, and then I shared him my vision. He was really interested with it. And then we hired a junior designer from Mozambique, actually, this wonderful gentleman by the name of Dejerson, who would help me and my director, Robert, to come up with the plan for the business and for the brand. And we worked on it painstakingly for about 3 to 4 months, along with my mentor, Tommy, about what is our brand identity? What is our vision? Who do we service to? What do we stand for? And out of all of that, we worked on the brand name, and Wuli came out of it. Now,
Well, so before you jump in there, let me just jump in
yeah,
and stick it in, because there are 2 things that you talked about. You talked about the length of time it took, which I think 2 things. You talked about the length of time it took, and you talked about, don't tell me I forgot, and and the fact that you had an existing product and you didn't necessarily try to make something from scratch. You just improved on what was already there. And I think
correct.
sometimes it's important for people to see and to understand that you creating your own product doesn't mean that you have to, or when I say solve a problem, right? Your
Yes,
problem was not there was no product. Your problem was that the product didn't work as efficiently as you needed it to. So
correct.
that is in fact a problem that you can solve with, because I mean, different hair type, different skin types, different climates,
Yes.
different things, really will affect people in different ways. So I found that to be really instrumental, and I want everybody who's watching to just to take note of that. If you're thinking about launching your own beauty brand or launching your own self-care brand or whatever the case may be, it could literally be one tweak. That's all that it could be. One tweak, right? So before you jump in, you talked about Woolly, you were getting into Woolly, and I just want
Yeah,
to
later.
kind of set some context for that. Now, I actually love the history of the word. I think it's, as you said, it's really essential to your brand story, and I want you to kind of talk about why it's essential to your brand story and what other parts of your West African heritage actually influenced your brand.
Yes, wonderful. So, part of the biggest probably influence of it was my mother. And she's, God bless her, a beautiful woman who, when I was a child, she used to work and then eventually ran hair salons in New York City, African hair salons predominantly. So African women and Caribbean women would come in to get their hairs braided or to hairstyle fixed up how they would like as well.
Mhm.
And I just remember quite a number of times being there as a kid after school or sometimes on the weekends and just seeing a lot of the products that they would use, fussing over what was working or what was couldn't working or what they couldn't find in the market. Most of the time, the number one product I say my mother always had, and I think a lot of Black women will probably agree, is Pinky. Was it Pinky or Pink
Oh
Oil?
yes, yes, that hair oil you put it.
Yeah, yeah, uh-huh.
Yes,
It was always in my house, always in my house.
yes.
Now, saying that, it wasn't like my mom ever used it on my own hair. My mother, very classic African woman, she always wanted the boys, my brother and myself, to always have short haircuts. So I always had short haircuts growing up, even though I envied having longer hair. But for my sister and the rest of the relatives, they always had the pink cream in their hair. So
Yes,
that was the first foray into that. It really was.
it really was. Okay. All right. So I just want to take a moment and just say hi to, well, Leona Charles. L. Charles, she's there dropping her lipsticks and saying hello. Thank you so much. And Janelle actually told us hi. So, guys,
Hello.
we are on here with Mr. Amadou Doumbia. Did I say that
Yes.
correctly? Right? The chief everything, the chief cook and bottle washer behind the brand Wuli Grooming, right? It's a unisex hair care brand.
Yeah.
And he's really given us a real lesson and a real masterclass in what it takes to launch and really market a brand, right? So as I was saying, as you were mentioning, your heritage and your mom really having a big influence. I think a lot of people take their experiences and really just invest it into their thing. They don't realize how much their own experiences influence the things that they do. They kind of want to know why certain things resonate. So that was really cool to hear about that story. And
Yeah.
I love the word woolly. You say it means to wake up and to get up and to grow up. Yeah,
Yes.
the only thing it should have added was glow up because I mean I saw it, I was like, oh, this is really cool. I like that. And I really found that was really super duper duper, really very, very, how should I say? It was just aligned so well to what you were trying to accomplish here. So that was really cool. And I love the way you're able to take a word, is it the language is it Bambara? That's what they call it.
Yes. Bambara.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, fine. I did my research. I did my
You got it.
research.
You got it. You got it, Taylor.
Research, right? So at a glance, right? So let's talk a little bit about the brand itself. So at a glance, I would no, you market it as unisex, but at a glance, I would conclude that it's more masculine, right? So
Yeah.
who do you find is attracted to the product more?
See, that's the thing. When I first started the brand, I very much, as I said, had the male audience in mind because I felt they were underserviced compared to the female market for a lot of these products.
Yes,
But as the brand was evolving and has developed, and now that I've officially launched it into market, it's actually received equal interest from both sides. And I actually carefully planned it that way. And because what happened was when we got to the stage of fragrance development, I knew I wanted fragrances that weren't overpowering, but also fragrances that both genders could easily, or any gender could really easily appreciate. So that's why the fragrances are where they are. It's not highly feminine, it's not highly masculine. The grooming side of it really, the word came from the fact that we were talking originally to the male audience, and that was a word that connected with them more so.
yes,
I'm thinking down the track, I might leave the grooming part out of it and just call it Woolly, but for the time being, it was what it was. Because hair care is grooming. It's making sure that you really are looking after yourself and you're on
yes,
point.
yes,
So yeah, and also one thing I very quickly wanted to go back to you, Jamila, with your point about improving on something instead of
yes,
creating something new. I think this is really important for entrepreneurs to understand.
yes,
We a lot of the time as entrepreneurs get stuck in this idea that we have to create something new. If we don't do something new, there's no unique selling point to sell on it. Being new is not just it's only one type of unique selling point.
yes,
Improving on something And having a strong brand identity behind it is an even stronger unique selling point. And that's something that actually helps you with one important area, and that is helping people get over the hump of understanding what your product does. If you
Yeah.
create something completely brand new that's never ever before seen in the market in a whole new category, you're going to have to spend more time educating your consumers on what it is
Yes.
that you do. Instead, with improving on something, you've got the foundation knowledge already provided to you, and you just improve on that and have a better story and a better product to tell. Yeah,
Yes. That's so true because there are actually some people who literally wait for other people to do it first. That's their whole
that's
thing.
right.
They wouldn't
That's
even
right.
bother to, they're not early adopters, so to speak, to kind of dive into something. Oh, this is happening. Let me just start one time. Some people they say,
Yeah,
oh, I'll let you do that. I'll wait for the reviews and then I'll see what I can do after. And I love
exactly.
that you made that point, and people being stuck is a true issue, especially if you are new to the world of entrepreneurship. You get caught in the paralysis by analysis, and you're like, "Oh my god, this is not working." Right? Because I know I've been stuck on that. Sometimes you want to you want to put something on something as simple as create a design on Canva to post. You're like, this color, this design, and you're like back and forth. And you spend 5 hours and you didn't do anything. You didn't
Yeah,
put anything out, and it could really be a big block mentally. You know what I mean?
I would
So.
say there are three. If in my humble opinion, there are three secret ingredients to really being a successful entrepreneur. The one I've learned to date when it comes to at least starting the business. One
Yeah.
is you really have to be consciously, how do you say, saying to yourself, finding pain points, finding issues with things that you do or things that you consume on a regular basis. If you're using something, or you're doing something that you generally enjoy, find as much as you can what's a pain point in that situation that you don't like or that's irritating you, because that pain point is probably something other people are feeling, and that's where
Yes.
the spark of idea comes from. Part two, always be willing to reach out to people. Don't just, come up with the ideas and then think, oh, I'm just going to leave this to myself because I don't trust other people, or, oh, I have to do everything myself because there's nobody who's going to understand this business or help me bring it up the way that I can. We all have the capacity to know people who also know other people. So you have to be really willing to be humble enough to say, I have this area of understanding, but I don't understand this, and I want to get other people to help me better understand, better get clarity on this. And
Yeah.
third, but finally, you have to love the process. I'm an Aries. I was born in April, and so I'm very goal driven and very ambitious. I love the work that I do, and I always see when I take on a task, this is the end result that I expect to do, and I'm working towards that final goal. There is
Mm.
no real final goal, at least initially when you start a business. So you can have small goals and wins, but you really have to understand this is going to be a journey and a process. And you have to love every step of that process. And at any moment that you feel like you're not going to like the process part of it, it's never going to succeed. Because if you
Yeah.
don't understand and appreciate those small, everyday, boring things about it, it's never going to build into something fantastic.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's a word. Can I say amen? That is a word. No, you definitely. The magic is in the mundane, and you really have to enjoy the grind as much as you enjoy the other side, the outcome. You know what I mean?
Yes,
But that's where the true learning, that's where the true development, the true sharpening comes in. Getting the result quickly and easily will never be as nice as. I'm not saying that you have to suffer, but I'm saying that going through the process, just appreciate it for what it is.
I
It's
agree.
really important to have that.
I had When I first started my idea with the business was back in August of 2020. I had every a plan to have a working formula and basic branding and and all the business side of the things organized and launched into market by that December. So within like 5 months, that was my original idea. And I think back on it now and I think that was just so crazy. There was more involved, which I can tell you later, but it all up. It took almost 2 years to build it, and I couldn't be happier that I took that time to get to this stage.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's definitely fantastic. And you know what else I also, before I ask my next question, I also want to say that I like the fact that you were working on the branding while the formula was being developed. So,
Yeah.
working on that, and that's actually tied to a question that I have coming up. about personal branding, because personal building a personal brand is one of the things I heavily advocate for people in the beauty space to build. So even if while they're deciding to develop a formula, because it does take a while, right? That's a perfect opportunity for you to start positioning yourself in the space as the person who likes this, or the person who talks about these types of things or gives advice in this area. Because beauty and self-care, these are very personal things, and it's
Exactly.
very it's very difficult to trust that this thing works when you haven't actually tried it. So if somebody said, well, did you try it? Well, no. So then how will you work for me? These are things you're putting on your body, in your body. It's not like, some thing that you have off there, you know what I mean? So having that personal experience almost becomes a requirement, I find, or being very, very close to the experience is almost a requirement. So
Yes.
building up that personal brand is critical. But the question I have in relation to that is, like, when you said that you kind of rediscovered yourself and yet you mattered, right? Did you spend a little bit more time curating your personal brand at all? Was that important for you prior to actually launching Wuli? Because I know we in the marketing space, it's almost natural that one would think that you would do that, but sometimes it's kind of like being a carpenter and all your cupboards at home are unbuilt. You know how it is. So did you
Yes.
actually spend any time crafting your own personal brand in that process?
In the process, no. I would say I didn't really spend too much personal time on my own brand because I always, how do I say, my vision was always that the brand was supposed to be positioned to be more than just me. Yes, I'm the face of the brand. Yes, I started the brand, but I didn't want the brand to be all about me. I didn't want it to be about me. I wanted it to really be about hair care. I really wanted it to be about effective, quality, all natural hair care because I wanted the brand to be able to stand on its own 2 feet and have a story that connected with everybody. That's why Wooly was part of the name that I chose because it's deeply personal to me, but it's also a word and a term that connects to everybody because it's something that we all strive to try to achieve on a daily basis in our lives.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'd say the personal branding it's kind of developed quite a bit throughout it because especially when I soft launched the brand and officially launched the brand since December of 2021, I realized
Mhm.
that I am the face of the brand. I am the person who is the reason why people are connecting with it and why they are loving with it. Like if I go to a weekend market in Australia and we're selling the product, it's because of the story that I tell. It's because of the experience that I share with people and the struggles that I had with managing my hair that makes the most perfect sense. So I would say my personal brand has been something that I've been developing alongside the regular brand. But all of that came from years of incredible foundational experience in the jobs that I had in PR and marketing and communications. And if there's one other thing I'd say to that is, sometimes I stand back and I think to myself, oh, I wish I had started this idea when I was in my early 20s because I've always had an entrepreneurial ambition and ideas since I was, in my as a kid, actually, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when I think really strong about it, there's no way I would have got this business to where it is today with at that age in my life. I didn't have
Yeah.
the experience, I didn't have the discipline, I didn't have the training, I didn't have the knowledge and the humility to understand that I don't know everything and I need to reach out to support when I don't know everything.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful to be able to get the business out now to where I am.
Oh yeah, certainly nothing happens before it's time. Indeed. Indeed. All right. So let's talk a little bit now about machismo. And this will always come up when it comes to guys and what they consider to be beauty products or whatever the case may be, right? So
Yeah.
now I'm from a small Caribbean island. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, where the majority of the people here are black and brown. And
Yes.
and where machismo is very much a thing.
Yes.
But so what was your experience in launching what is essentially, I suppose, a beauty brand to and as an African male, what did your family think? What was that? What was
Uh,
our
you
experience
know,
like? What was
do
the
you know?
perception like?
It took so long for me to tell my own family, and I think I probably waited at least maybe 6 months from when I originally had the idea before I told anybody in my family. In fact, before I told most people in my life. And the reason for that was I've always been the kind of person who says, I'm going to do this, I'm making this happen. And a lot of the time it just falls through, or I just lose my passion halfway through and I just don't do it. And so I
Yes.
said to myself, this is something that I really want to prove to myself that I can, build it and get it to a place where it's actually functioning
Yeah.
before I told anybody in my universe. Most of my dearest friends and family, I didn't really tell the rest of them until maybe 2 months before I launched. I did the soft launch. So that would have been like September of this October 2021. That was when I told everybody. And then they're like, oh, it's been over a year. You've been doing this. Like, yeah, because I just wanted to wait until I had something you could
Yeah.
see that I was following through. So it was a very slow process. But then once I decided to launch it, getting it to market was another different story. I had every idea at the very beginning that I was going to have this big successful launch on my e-commerce store, and there were going to be thousands of people waiting for me when the store launched, and everything was going to be fantastic. Then I realized very quickly, hang on a moment, I'm a new brand, I'm not a celebrity, nobody's heard of me
Yeah.
before. How on earth am I, and I don't have like crazy budgets to spend on advertising. How on earth am I going to get all of these people to buy at the beginning of the store launch? And then
Yes.
and that's when I realized that's not really realistic. So I thought maybe the better point is to maybe start small, start with a market. Very grateful that in Sydney, Australia, we have a lot. It's a very common, how do you say, a very big scene of weekend markets. People have
Yeah.
stalls in these different trade markets, and you can purchase things. And I knew we were coming into the Christmas period, so I decided I was going to attend several markets and just launch it there and make sure that everything was on point. I'm happy to send you some photos. You can search on my Insta social media profile of photos of my
Yes.
stall when we first
Yes.
launched it.
I saw some on your TikTok. I saw some on your Instagram. Let me see if I can find
Yeah,
some on your TikTok. Go ahead.
you can. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, you can see everything about the accounts on the business there. And what's it called? I remember spending so much time fussing about making sure that these market stall was going to be the most beautiful stall I could make it possible. And we did a fantastic job. We did our very first launch with a little bit of promotion, but it was all street foot traffic of people who saw the brand, met with me, connected with me, and we sold out. We almost sold out. We
Oh
actually almost
wow.
sold out. We sold about 3,000 Australian dollars worth of goods in that one day. I've never been so tired in my life. I remember it was 12 hours of standing on my feet, talking over and over the same story. But you know what? It worked. And I did the
Yes.
math. Every second person who visited my stall purchased product, and they fell in love
Wow.
with the brand and everything about it. And part of it was, I guess, my friends who were there told me it was my personality, but because everything was so professional and everything said, this is a serious brand who is serious business, and it's a product that worked. And it was those markets that were really helpful to get people to try the brand as well and see which fragrances they preferred. Yeah, there I am. And also,
Yes. No, but I truly.
see the
No,
results.
but I have to agree with your friend. I have to agree with your friend. I'm sure you seem to have a very big personality, and I think it's a combination of
Yeah,
both things. I think it's a
yeah.
combination of a well presented. What am I doing here? This is the wrong thing I'm clicking.
My
A well,
Instagram feed.
oh, this is what I want to see. This is what I
Yeah,
wanted to see. A well presented product, well presented brand. Everything is so well put together, clean, attractive, and also the fact that you have, and this is the power of really clear messaging. This is the power of really clear brand story, and being able to
yeah,
connect those things back to your product easily. Once you have that down, I mean, you even have a hairbrush, which is like, cool, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
and even the I forgot my train of thought, but the point is that
That's okay.
it looked good. It looked really good.
Thank
You know
you.
what I mean? So even if somebody was a stranger, so like they have some of those kinds of markets here too. And one of my cousins, she actually goes to these markets because her dad is an
Yeah,
artist.
yeah.
And she told me there was this one young lady who actually was on this show maybe about a month ago. She set up, she has a
Mm-hmm.
luxury brand as well. And people were like, wow, where did you get this? Where did you get that? How did you print this? And it kind of showed me that people, because people don't really take the time to do this back end work beforehand, spending the 4 5 6 months investing their time, investing their money, they just kind of do it kind of haphazardly when somebody actually
Yeah,
takes the time to do it properly, it's like, whoa. But you could achieve that too. You just have to be willing to take the time and invest the energy and the money. So, okay,
absolutely.
so we have Janelle. Janelle says, looks really attractive. Congrats. The effort and time paid off. I appreciate the time it took to get to this place. Very encouraging.
Oh, thank you,
Yeah.
Janela.
Yes, it is very encouraging. It is very, very possible for you. Trust me. Right. So if you're hearing music, somebody's, enjoying themselves with a little carnival last jump.
Clearly, it's the carnivals are happening.
Right? So okay, so you took a while to tell your family, and I appreciate that you took the time to really work it out before you told anybody. So by the time you did, you pretty much had something. You were stepping into this thing confidently. This is my thing, and no, this
Yeah,
is what it is. This is how it's been doing. Um, so that is really, really, really good, right?
yeah.
So would you say that your own transformation and you deciding to spend a little bit more time on yourself actually impacted, or did it have any impact on you deciding to position this brand as premium? Because I think it is a premium brand based on what I
Yeah,
saw. I mean, just by looking at it, you can tell it's premium as well.
yeah.
Did you feel like the brand needed a little bit more love, just like you give to yourself?
1000%. When I set out with the vision of the brand, I knew I wanted to create something that was premium. I didn't want to create something that was luxury because I felt I don't want it to corner one specific market. I really wanted this to be something that was available to everybody who needed
Mm-hmm.
quality hair care. And I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want to, do anything, make it a cheaper end of the market as well, because for one, there's so many cheaper products out there. I mean, like the one that I was introduced to by my barber. And also, I knew that if I went on a cheaper scale, it was going to be hard to, how do you say, get the quality ingredients that I want in my formula. You
Yeah.
look at most brands in hair care, if they're in the supermarket shelves, it's almost impossible for them to get to that same level of quality ingredients that I've got. They have to rely on artificial and synthetic ingredients. It's just impossible
Yeah.
in terms of the pricing point.
Yeah.
And I actually had a conversation about this with a retail expert the other week because she was trying to get me. Oh, can you hear me? Oh yes.
Yes.
She was trying to get me to position the pricing a little bit cheaper so we could have larger scale distribution potential with like pharmacies and groceries and stuff. And I said, no, I don't want to do that in the long run because a few things. One, it means the quality ingredient has to be cheaper, which means my unique selling point becomes harder to defend. And
Yes.
two, it means higher inventory, which means there's a higher amount of cost that I have to put to generate more product to then potentially sell and
Yes.
as opposed to where I'm at the moment. So it's a really nice middle ground where my vision was always that I wanted to be able to go into a department store like in the US, like Macy's or Nordstrom, etc., and see it in the counters of hair care products, and it stands there proudly amongst all the other products, knowing that
Yes.
there's an African heritage branded product with beautiful ingredients that works for everybody, that does exactly what it says, and it sits perfectly in place with all the other products in the shelf.
I love the fact that you told her no. I love the fact that you stuck to your guns and you're like, no, no, not this brand. I love that. And I know sometimes, and again, this is probably because you took the time to cast that vision
Yes,
before you like went full steam ahead. So once you're able to
yes.
cast that vision and you set up that for yourself, it's very difficult to kind of move people once they have put that down properly, lay down the foundation properly. So I'm glad that, yeah. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and I wanted to say that all stems from the brand identity.
Absolutely.
Everybody said to me when I first started on that process, why are you spending so much investment on the brand identity? Why don't you just focus on the formula and get that right and then start selling that and testing and see how you go? I'm like, no, in beauty, it's 50% product. You have to have a good product that does exactly how it says and that it works. But it's also the branding. People need to be able to connect with the brand. The brand needs to be consistent. The brand needs to have an identity that strengthens the product. Otherwise, it's just a product, and then it's nothing unless you have a really brand new product that's never been seen before in the market, which we all know is very hard to create. You're never going to be able to connect to people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yay for brand identity and yay for brand strategy. I'm all about that around here. So I'm glad about that. All right,
Yeah.
so let's talk a little bit about the marketing of Wuli, right? So,
Okay.
of course, marketing, in the words of the great Donald Miller, story brand,
Yeah.
he talks about, marketing is really an exercise in memorization. And, there are a few ways you can do that. You could pay to get attention, you could earn people's attention with a great story. But, there are two other ways, of course, you can get people to share about you, and you could certainly take advantage of media on your own, like creating your own content. So I want to talk about the last two. How do you get people to buy into the brand and spread the gospel of Wooly with everyone that they know? How do they?
Fantastic. It's a lot of work, I can tell you. Like because we're still young in the market and everything. What I've done is take a test and a testing method approach. So thankfully, because I've got the background again in branding and marketing and comms, I have the ability to do my own PR, develop my own ads and write my own press releases and do some social media. Now, social media, I've taken on board a freelancer to help me with the content because it's hard to manage social media on such a regular basis. But I'm the one
Yes.
who engages with posts and engages with the public.
Yeah.
Now, social media is there for a purpose, and it's actually interesting to say to people. I'd love to share this with other entrepreneurs. Social media is not just, first of all, it's not going to be the end all to get sales, especially if you're a new brand. It's almost impossible to get direct sales from just social media posting outside of your own social circle who follow you. It's going to be
Yeah.
really hard. But what social media serves is probably three big things in my book. One, it's search engine traffic because every time you post things on Instagram and TikTok, etc., you feed into the SEO side of marketing that allows people to find you a little bit easier when they're looking for products and unique things like yourself. And
Mhm.
also it builds up your brand presence so that if you ever had a vision or goal of eventually going into a retail brand, as a lot of professionals have told me, most retail brands, if they're considering a new brand these days, will look at your social media feed and see how many followers you have, how engaged are your posts, what kind of interesting content are you sharing. Because once
Wow.
you're in their store, they expect you as the brand to support the promotion of your product so that people can go
Absolutely.
into the store and buy it. So
Yeah.
you owe it to yourself to invest in social media as early as possible in your brand. So I started my social media pages even before the brand launched, and I just populated a lot of it with my own content. And then eventually, when the brand launched and we were starting to make some sales, I hired a brilliant freelancer to help me with generating more content that I had available. So that's a very important part. And then on the other side of marketing, never discount face-to-face opportunities. This is why I say
Yeah.
the weekend markets. I cannot speak more strongly for any entrepreneur, no matter where you are in the world. If you've got a weekend market in your location that you can go to, do it. Especially when you're in the very early stage of the business, it is the greatest opportunity you will ever have to make actual cash right then and there, so you can generate direct sales immediately, and also importantly, learn who your audience is. If you're like
Yeah.
me, you'll have the idea of who your audience is originally, but then it'll evolve and you'll find out who your audience is by who is buying from you and who visits you. And it's the greatest gift you can ever ask for because you can spend thousands of dollars on testing ads on Facebook and Google to find the people who like your product. And even then, you won't really get to know who they are, or you can spend that a few hours and a few $100s on a weekend at a market and meet people who will be interested in your product and seeing where it actually fits in the marketplace.
Yeah, absolutely. You get real feedback too. So it's not just and data is critical, as in like the numbers and stuff. But I feel like things like that definitely humanizes the data. It actually puts actual words as opposed to, oh, this amount of people click through, or we had this many conversions, or I mean, you know
Yes.
that you're doing something right, but I usually like to hear things contextualized. But I like this because of X, or I don't like this
Yes.
because of X, or you know what I mean. So it really does help to contextualize things. So I endorse that 100%. Yeah, and I have to ask, is it different? Is creating content for a premium brand any different to any of the other projects? I mean, I know you've been in the marketing communications field, so I'm sure you would have had to deal with social media and other contexts before.
Yeah.
Um, Is it different for you to create content for a premium brand?
Um, No, not necessarily, because every good content for a beauty brand starts with a great story and being able to be a storyteller. One of the greatest skills and things that I've learned in my professional career today is when it comes to great marketing, you need to have an engaging story behind the what message that you're trying to communicate. And one thing I knew I had the greatest one of the biggest advantages for when I started this brand, and especially when it came to developing my website. And I encourage anybody who's watching to view my website and view the copy of how I describe products, is that I knew copywriting and how to tell a story. Most of the time, you look into a lot of beauty brand websites, and they just have factual information on what the product is, what it does, and what are the main ingredients. And that's okay, and that's what you are capable of doing. I say do it, because you know what? It's better than nothing. But I knew I could take it a little bit further, because I had that ability to connect the dots and tell a story around the product and who is the kind of person who will be utilizing the product. So I invested a lot of time also in my website. I remember, like, for example, it took maybe, I think, 3 months for me to write the copy of my website. And then after I wrote it, the first draft went through multiple drafts. And I remember then even working with a freelancer who was an ex-beauty editor. And I asked her to proof and copy edit my content so we can make it as best as possible. Never be afraid to ask somebody else to double check your writing. But that's the
Yes.
kind of stuff that really is important with a brand, especially when it comes to a premium, if not luxury brand. You need to figure out a way through words and imagery to help people create a picture in their head of what is the brand
Yes.
trying to do and achieve for you, and what is the product going to achieve for you. Because that's only step one. Step two will be they get the product, whether it's a sample or they buy the product, and they can actually feel, smell, and try it. Then the
Yes.
rest of the story connects.
Yes, I want to feel good, smell good, and look good, obviously. So
Yes.
obviously, you really want to be able to paint that picture with words. And I know copywriting takes some, it's a skill. You have to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
But it really does help you even to be able to speak about the thing easily. And having your story as a jump off point is the most organic place you can start, is the most authentic, the most real place you can start. And that's why, like, when I looked through and I read everything, I'm like, okay, I have a clear idea as to where this brand came from. What was the nucleus of it? What was the driving force of it? And you say you took 3 months on the copy. I don't even doubt that, because sometimes you kind of go back. You have to let it marinate a bit, go away,
Yes.
come back, and like, this could change, that could change. Just word being too wordy here. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I appreciate
Even
that.
the ingredients, like the active ingredients page that I've got on my website, that took probably the longest time to write, because I knew I had 15 active ingredients I wanted to communicate. And I remember listening to a podcast with this copywriter in the US who was giving this amazing tip about not only the storytelling element, but also about how much content people consume. And he was telling me, you have to think, when you have a visitor to your website, especially for an e-commerce store, there's two types of visitors usually. There's the ones who want the quick information to just make a quick understanding of what the product is and buy it. And then there's going to be the ones who want to take their time. They want to really connect with the
Yes.
brand. They want to understand what's involved with everything. And he gave this recommendation about, having two forms of copy if you can, a short and a long form where possible. And I took that and I just ran with it. And then, like the active ingredients, if you see it, there's a short version that just quickly gives you the gist of what it is. And then there's a longest version that's more of a story about what kind of cultures were using that ingredient for hundreds of years. What is the benefit? How is it made? Where does it come from? All of these things that I knew is a unique selling point, because most of my competitors, they still maybe have one line sentence on what the ingredient is when they talk about their active ingredients in their brand and their products.
And I have to say, like, illustration go along with it as well.
Thank you. Yeah.
Illustration really nice. You know what I mean? And it really kind of gives a really just a homey, authentic. I know what it is about artwork like this, these illustrations, but it
Yeah.
really brings the organic part of it forward.
Yeah.
And this is really, the messaging is really really on point for this. I have to say that even the non-verbal messaging, by communicating and really by highlighting, and because I mean these ingredients people I've seen before. I know I've certainly seen aloe. We have a plant in the back, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
argan oil and bentonite. These are things that we have seen before, but it's almost as though they have been recast and repositioned in a new light, in the way they are presented. So I can definitely appreciate something like this. So guys,
Thank
this
you.
is really a true masterclass in the way a brand should be presented. So I hope you guys are listening and watching. All right, because it is quite attractive. So this is the Wuli Grooming website. So it's woollygrooming.com. Definitely visit and take a look, even if it's just to be inspired, because it's pretty good, right? All right, okay. So
Thank
let's
you.
do that now. Um, all right, so Amadou, we are coming down. We are winding down. We are circling the airport to land this plane. Um, so normally I would like, I play a little game. So I'm actually going to play the game I played last week with my guest last week because I think it was pretty cool.
Yes.
So this game, this is just, these are, I just juxtapose two ideas. You could kind of tell me how you feel. I have my own ideas. I suppose yours might be close to mine because of the fact that you're in marketing. But anyway, let's do it,
Yeah.
right? So tell me, what would you recommend? Passion over problem or problem over passion? What do
Ooh, that's a great thing. I say passion of a problem because if you don't
Really?
have the
That's what you
passion,
say?
do you know why? And it's easy
Why?
to say problem or passion. They're both benefit. I see the difference between both of them. But if you don't have the passion, no, actually, no, I changed my mind. Problem of a passion. And the reason why I say that is because if you don't have the problem, you won't have the point where you can have the passion for the problem. You need to know what the problem is that you're looking for, and then
Yes.
you will find, and you need to then be able to identify where the passion within that problem is for you to
Right.
carry on to build the idea into something.
Yeah. This is a kind of hard juxtaposition because sometimes you may just have a love for something and you just want to be surrounded by it all the time. But
Yeah,
then sometimes something becomes problematic for you and you're like, I have
yeah,
to fix the thing. It's driving me nuts. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So,
And it's interesting because I remember for the longest time, and this goes back to how I was always thinking in my 20s and as a kid about being an entrepreneur and starting a business. I had the passion, but I didn't
yeah,
know where the problem was. And
yeah,
I let my passion guide me for so long on trying to then eventually finding a problem. And it
yeah.
really didn't work. It was when the problem presented itself to
So,
me and I realized I actually have a passion for this. Because again, this is very much in my nature. I'm the kind
yes,
of person who I get very passionate about things that I care about. And if I don't
yes,
have the passion, then I don't pay attention to the details. I don't I don't put in the extra hours that I need to. I don't invest as much of my energy as I possibly can into something if I don't have the passion for it. And
yeah,
so it was when I started looking at the problem, that's when the passion came
yes.
through.
Kind of showed itself. Yes, I completely understand. All right, so let's switch to another one. So should you start before you're ready, or should you get ready before you start?
Oh, definitely get ready before you start.
Mm,
I mean, and especially in the state of a beauty business, like we said before, you can create a product and sell it tomorrow if you wanted to, and you feel that the product is okay. But that's only 50% of the battle. You'll probably be able to sell some units to some friends and family and some small groups of individuals, but you need to build the brand and the identity behind it before you can really make it something that's a business that can grow. So I would say definitely get ready before you start.
all right. And I know some people might advocate for, like just get started, jump off the cliff. But I advocate for, I don't know, I can see it working both ways. There's
Yeah,
in some things in terms of getting ready before starting before you're ready, it's like not being afraid to actually start doing something instead of like thinking.
yes.
You know what I mean?
But you have to be also very careful to not wait too long That was
Yeah.
something that was actually going to be a huge tip for me because I had a challenge when I was getting ready to launch the brand of getting my final packaging, like the beautiful packaging you see on my website, which is coming in from overseas. Well, I originally had plans of getting that packaging available by, I think, like November, so that I can then start to sell in the Christmas markets in December. Well, that packaging is still currently in delay because of COVID and all the manufacturing in Asia. So I thought, okay, originally I thought to myself, I'll just wait until the packaging before I do any sales because that's how I thought. And my friends were like, you're crazy. You have a beautiful product, you have beautiful branding. What you need is just packaging that's good and is doable now, and then maybe give customers a little bit of a discount for it, and then build on that. And I'm so grateful I listened to that because then I found a packaging supplier locally in Australia who I could use for the time being, and that's the packaging you see in all of my market stall imagery. And so we've got units of stock there. I've made money through that and generated business for that. And now I'm working towards my beautiful fancy packaging, which is coming down hopefully in April of this year. Because once I have that packaging, it's less
Yeah.
about me being the face of talking about the brand, and the brand can actually start having conversations with the retail partners to be sitting on store shelves.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess you kind of already answered my third one, which would have been, should you develop the business brand for the personal before the business? And I kind of have a feeling that I know what you're about
Ooh,
to say.
yeah. It's a really hard one. I mean, I think your personal brand needs to come first, but that also connects with understanding who you are and understanding your skills and expertise and limitations. So if you don't have a real good solid understanding of who you are, then
Yeah,
you can't apply it into the business.
absolutely.
Otherwise, it's going to really impact the branding and the identity that you want to craft for the business. I feel, especially when it comes to beauty, because it's such a personal industry sector.
Absolutely. Your brand, because, my brother always says, and this is true, that the core of a company is built on the heart of the leadership. If you, as the person who is spearheading this thing, have skewed values, have because when it comes to the brand identity, the brand values, where does a company is not a living, breathing thing until somebody makes it that. And what is
Right,
going to define that company? Usually it's the values of the person who is leading the charge. And
right.
if you don't know what that is, that's why oftentimes you find people like changing things all the time or switching things up, or you find so many changes happening because they didn't really take the time to get to know themselves.
That's
And
right.
sometimes building that brand isn't necessarily about marketing a product. It's sometimes it's just about doing things like putting yourself out there, learning how to network, engaging with other people, learning how to create content, learning to have a point of view. To be very honest,
Exactly.
and having that point of view is critical, and then you'd find yourself being molded and shaped, and the more you're being asked, the more you realize, okay, I need to kind of sharpen up my skills to be able to have something
Yeah,
to say inside of this
exactly.
context. You know what I mean? So
1000% accurate.
that's what I feel about that. All right, okay, all right, Amadou. Okay, well that's a short game for tonight, or for this morning by you,
Yeah.
right? I know you're in the future right now. All right, okay,
Yes.
okay. So I was gonna ask you about the packaging, but you just gave me the story. I just and of course, you said that you made the decision to work with a local somebody local to Australia. And to be very honest, I mean, I wouldn't even know that there's not your real packaging. It just fits so nicely. It works really well. I wouldn't know that if you didn't tell me that. I would have no idea. It looks pretty.
See, that's the perfectionist in me. I have to always be fighting. It's like, no, it's perfectly fine. It's absolutely perfect. And people say that to me, like, this is beautiful as it is. I was like, oh, thank you. But wait until you see my actual packaging. I think that's going to be even more amazing. But that's just
Well,
me.
all right, okay. Well, we will look out for the even more amazing packaging, right?
Thank you.
So as we wind down, what role do you want Woolly or the Woolly brand to play in other people's glow up? What do you want them to say about it?
I want them to start waking up to understanding what is in the products they put in their hair. If there's one thing if there's one mission I would want, I would love at the end of this entire journey is that I've basically helped a lot more people be more aware of what are the ingredients that go into their hair products. Because it's not just me. There are a few brands out in the world these days who are being a lot more conscientious of what ingredients they put in their hair. But there's still many products who, for example, will say, oh, they're great for curly hair, but they actually have ingredients that don't do anything for curly hair, or really just fillers, or really just, they don't really have any benefit to it. And so if I could get people to be just more conscientious of what they apply in their hair, then I feel they will be more conscientious in how they approach many other areas in their life and many other things that they consume. And that will make me really, really happy.
All right. Okay. So Amadou, when can we expect Wuli on this side of the world?
So it's
When?
great question. I'm expecting it later this year, probably by summer. So I'm hoping by
Yeah.
July, that's when we can start it. It's just to do with distribution issues with getting it overseas at the moment. The other week I sent a package of Wuli to my family in New York. And it took, oh no, sorry, it wasn't a family. It was a journalist I might have in New York, who's a friend of mine. And it took actually about, I think, 2.5, 3 weeks for a
Wow.
package that was shipped express from Australia.
Wow. That's not
And
express.
no, the post office said to me, "Oh, it's going to take 4 to 5 business days." And then literally 2.5 weeks later, she finally received it, and I was like, if that's the way it's working at the moment, and that's just because flights are really hard to get, and customs and shipping is just taking a lot longer. So I'm working on a plan where I will be able to hopefully have inventory stocked in the US. And
Yeah.
first in the US, the United States is the first out overseas market I want to be in. So I want to be able to stock it locally there, and then ship it out from that local distribution point, so the shipping times are much shorter.
Yeah. So whenever it gets to the US, I can actually get it. I can
Yes,
actually
I will
get it.
happily let you know.
If it comes down on the side, you might have to find a I could find a really good distributor who could distribute your products in Trinidad. She was on the show, as a
Absolutely.
matter of fact. She's pretty good. She has a whole company.
Oh
So
my God.
okay, so Janelle is saying taking the time with the long version adds to the authenticity of the ingredients and the product.
A
That is
thousand percent.
true. That is true. And she also said that is a good goal, knowing what is in the product. I'm not sure what she's talking about here, which that's a good
Oh, we're
goal.
talking about the ingredients in the hair products.
All right, right. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's funny how small things could really transform your life, right? It started
Yeah,
small thing, and then it just kind of like snowballs into a whole bunch of other things, you know what I mean?
exactly.
All right, so with that, we have landed the plane. We are now getting off you are getting off as, I don't know if Sydney International Airport or whatever.
Yes. After a busy work day for me.
Yes, I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your busy work day. In the future, because guys, he is in Australia. It is now, what time is it now? After 11,
It
11.
is, yep. It's Wednesday morning, 11:13 a.m.
Yes, and it's 8:13 p.m. here, still Tuesday night. So
Uh,
Amadou is speaking to us from the future. So this was a really, really good one. And he's very
yeah.
futuristic with his brand. Clearly you can see. Okay. So Amadou, I just want to say thank you for coming on tonight, and for all the people in the community who are here. Janelle, two different Janelles, Leona who are here, and all the people who may be watching this on the replay. Feel free to drop replay in the comments so we know that you were here, and let us know what
Yeah.
was your favorite part of this interview. We always try to have guests who can really add a lot of value. And as I always say, there are people who are launching beauty brands every day with no idea how to sell them. If you need help with to run your marketing campaigns, you need advice on your branding, feel free to reach out to me. Go to my website, book a discovery call, and we could talk about how we can work together so that you could have a brand that is fabulous as Amadou's, right? In your
Lovely.
category. And of course, if you want to follow Wuli Grooming, go to the IG, follow Wuli Grooming, and on Facebook. This is also on TikTok, right? So
Yes, on
TikTok
TikTok.
is also Wuli Grooming, and check them out. Check out his Facebook page, Wuli Grooming, and of course you can get in touch at hello@wooligrooming.com if you have to invite him on a show, if you want to buy his products wholesale, maybe you want to distribute on this side of the world. Feel free to get
Yes,
in touch, and his
definitely.
website is WuliGrooming.com. So right now, Wuli Grooming is available in Australia, but in the coming months, it will be here. So follow his social media accounts for updates so you'll know exactly when that is happening. You know, we in the Caribbean buy American goods all the time, so it wouldn't be a big deal to buy it if it's in New York. So that should be fine. And yeah, so again, feel free to reach out to Amadou. Feel free to check Wuli Grooming to get your beautiful hair products. And if you need support with your marketing and certainly with establishing what your brand is, how to move ahead in the future, how to get yourself set up and ready so that you could be, so this could be your most successful year in beauty, feel free to reach out to me on my website. All right. So
Yes.
again, thank you. Thank you, Amadou. And don't forget to join us right here next week on the Lipstick Effect, where I will have another amazing guest for another amazing week. So, guys, today I know today is Carnival Tuesday. We didn't have any Carnival this year, but maybe next year. And enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you back here on the Lipstick Effect next week for International Women's Day. It's going to be great. All right. So take care
Beautiful.
and have a great night. Bye.
Bye.